Hey, this is Megan here at Vice and Graph, the vintage shop here in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and today we're going to be talking about the differences in vintage clothing versus antique clothing. For those of you that can hear Hank in the background, Hank is our pocket beagle. He's like 6 months old, still a puppy, apparently going through separation anxiety, although he's literally 6 feet away from me right now. Like, he is right there. Hank. Hank. Hi, buddy. Okay, so vintage is technically defined as anything older than 20 years, which means that anything made before 2002 is vintage. Again, also meaning all the vintage clothes that I have in my closet from high school are now considered vintage. I don't make the rules, that's just what they are. Antique is considered anything older than 100 years. So anything made before 1922 is considered antique. So here's the quick differences to tell if a piece in your closet is vintage or antique. So if you're looking at a piece of clothing in your closet and you're trying to determine whether it is antique or vintage, the first most obvious thing is to look at the structure of the garment. Pieces that look like this are generally vintage. Pieces that look like that are generally antique, although there's a lot of nuances to that, right? There's historical reproduction that we're not including in this conversation. But generally people are not wearing wool, black vests every day. Although if you are on the regular, like, good for you, come to the shop. We probably have a lot of stuff you would like. But again, just like for step one, look at what the garment looks like. And then from there, you can start to look for other identifying factors to help you age your garment. For antique clothing, there's a ton of stuff we could talk about. We don't have time in this particular TikTok to go through how to specifically date your clothing. There's a whole body of knowledge on that, but just again, looking at the structure of the garment would be step one. Okay, so we've ruled out that the piece in your closet that you're looking at is not antique. And in fact, it's vintage. That's still a ton of time we have to cover. That's from 1922 to 2002 that we have to try to date when your piece could be from. So the first thing you want to look at, and in this case, I'm using t-shirts, although we have all kinds of other stuff in the shop, like robes and lingerie and jackets of any kind you could possibly imagine, and militaria. Okay, so back to our t-shirt. If you're trying to date when a t-shirt's from, there's a lot you could look at. The first is the print. Sometimes the print will have identifying factors, maybe a year on it or something that can help date when it could be from. The second thing you want to look at is the type of material it's made out of. The third is stitching. Is it single stitch, double stitch? Is it hand stitch or maybe from a machine? And then the fourth thing you could look at is the tag. I'll do another TikTok all about different tags because there's a ton to talk about that would help you date your piece. But again, those are just examples of how to start dating when a piece of clothing could be from. None of them stand alone as a way to date your clothing, but when you put all of them together, you can really help nail down when a piece might be from.